today I am very pleased to be here with Wendy Grendele, Dr. Wendy Grendele. She's from the UK. She is a lead researcher at Roehampton University, a social psychologist, and she has a special focus on group dynamics and social dominance and coercion. It's such a pleasure to have you on the Stop Mandated Shunning channel. Welcome.
Thank you, Monica. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
So let's just get into it. What led you to get involved in this topic? Kind of what is your history with it?
Okay, so, when I was doing my master, two dear friends were shunned from their religious community, and they shared their experience with me. And their experiences were quite touching. And I realized that I wanted to understand better the impact of being shunned, because it seemed that this event impacted severely on their well-being. And for my master project, I started exploring or searching the literature. And there was a big gap in the available knowledge on shunning and its effect, its impact on the individual's well-being. So I conducted my final project on this topic, for then realizing that it wasn't enough. That's why I planned a second bigger project for my PhD. And for that project, I interviewed 33 former members of a high control faith-based group. And then it's during this project when I met Savine. And we are still working together on this, research, exploring the psychological impact of being shunned from a faith-based high control group.
Mm. And for those viewers who are new to the channel, Dr. Savine Bapir-Tardi has already been interviewed, so you can check previous videos to listen to her interview as well. So now you're involved in this groundbreaking, very in-depth, 3-year plus research project on mandated shunning. What is exactly being studied? Can you explain this project a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So it's a research project that aims to understand mandated shunning from different perspectives, incorporating insights from former members, psychological therapists, legal experts, human rights activists, and religious scholars. But the main objective is to document the effect of mandated shunning on the individual's well-being and whether it constitutes, a human rights violation.
So, how is the study being conducted? Who can participate?
So there are two main components. One is qualitative, and the other is quantitative. So what does this mean? Basically, with the qualitative component, we aim to interview people from 5 different groups of experts. And again, as I mentioned, this is to develop a theoretical framework or, to understand mandated shunning from different perspectives. And the second component is actually, to first of all validate an inventory that Savine and I have developed to investigate coercive and controlling behaviors within high control communities, and to document through a survey the effects that mandated shunning has on, psychological impact, well-being, physical well-being, social aspect of the individual. So who can participate? For the qualitative component, as I mentioned before, we are interviewing 5 different groups of experts. So people, former members of faith-based or high control groups that practice shunning. We have already interviewed a very good number, for example, of Jehovah's Witnesses, former Jehovah's Witnesses, but our aim is to interview people from other communities that practice shunning. Some examples: Exclusive Brethren, Amish and Mennonite, Scientology, 2x2, Mormon Church, fundamentalist Christian Church. All of these, to some extent, use shunning as a disciplinary measure. So we want to hear from these groups as well, because again, it's not only one group that applies this kind of practice, but it's common across different high control or faith-based groups. Then therapists who work with people affected by mandated shunning to understand the challenges of supporting and developing tailored support for clients affected by mandated shunning. We are also interviewing human rights activists with experience in campaigns on mandated shunning or coercive and controlling practices. Legal experts as well. This actually is really important because we can understand the legal challenges, the legal perspective on defending cases related to mandated shunning, and the religious scholars with expertise on faith-based communities that practice mandated shunning. And altogether, this will allow us to understand shunning as a whole from different perspectives, considering different perspectives.
So thank you for that. This is clearly very in-depth research. And for those of us like me who are lay people and not familiar with this, I'll just kind of recap what helps me to understand the difference, because these were new terms. There's the 2 portions, the qualitative and the quantitative. So the quantitative is the survey where you're checking boxes, maybe answering multiple choice questions, a couple of brief freehand responses, and then the qualitative is the interview process, which is in-depth personal interviews. And for the survey, it would just be former members who have experienced shunning themselves, correct? But yes. With the qualitative, the interviews, you're looking for former members from many different groups, but also yes. all these other professionals, the legal, human rights activists, the therapists, all of the professionals that you mentioned. So yes. we would love it if you, our audience listeners, could spread the word. Think if you know anyone who qualifies from any of these categories, because the broader the research, the better the results will be, the more thorough this will be. And it's fascinating that you mentioned that this aspect of control of shunning former members, punishing them if they leave or threatening them with leaving, is common in all these groups, because these groups would say that it's specific to their group and kind of unique to their group and their doctrine, and they'll use that, as justification, like this is our religious belief, and yet these groups have very, very differing beliefs, and yet this practice is common among groups that have a high degree of control. Yes. Fascinating research. So I know it's in the early stages, but Have there been any surprises? Have there been some patterns, without revealing any confidential information, just patterns that you've noticed so far?
Yeah, it's good that you highlighted that we are still at an initial stage in analyzing the data, but it's something that surfaced from the experiences of participants is that mandated shunning is used as a mechanism to often is used as a mechanism to silence victims of abuse. And rather than protecting vulnerable individuals, the practice often serves like to shield the institution from scrutiny, reinforcing, unfortunately, a culture of silence and compliance. And this has allowed patterns of abuse to be minimized, dismissed, or even perpetuated. And it's quite, how can I say, it's quite disturbing because, this add trauma to the already social exclusion that the individual experiences. So this is quite revealing because it highlights how control over social belonging is used as a powerful tool, actually, to suppress dissent and preserve institutional image, often, again, unfortunately, at the expense of the individual's well-being.
So why is this research needed? How is it, when we get the results, the full results, how will it be used? How can it be beneficial?
So I would say that, this research is needed because we need a legal definition of mandated shunning, for example. We believe that the findings of this project will contribute towards the establishment of a legal definition of mandated shunning and its recognition as a human right violation. And legal definitions are the bedrock of a functioning legal system because they provide clarity, consistency, fairness, ensuring that the laws are understood and applied correctly. And only in this way, an individual's right can be protected, and this can promote the rule of law. So this is, one important aspect in considering why this research is needed. Then there is also, the need to foster a more ethical balance between religious practices and human rights. From the interviews so far, another aspect that is emerging is the fact that there is a need for therapists to understand the context of mandated shunning, why the individual is shunned, and what are the culture, the community culture. So again, there is a need to raise awareness, to protect against coercive and controlling practices such as mandated shunning, but also to better tailor the support from a therapeutical perspective.
I'm so happy you mentioned that because I know of lots of people who have suffered shunning, and it's so traumatic and it affects so many aspects of their life, and they maybe don't even have the words themselves to explain what they're going through. And if a therapist hasn't been trained, and they don't really have special training at this point on this issue in most cases, then it's kind of this thing that isn't understood or recognized, and people can't necessarily get the help that they need. So from a therapeutic perspective, that's good to know. I would imagine there would also be just this would also just help raise general awareness because people aren't familiar with that term. It's kind of a niche term at this point. And yet,
Yes.
I know when we were just at the ICSA conference, we were discussing how 40 to 100 million people worldwide are victims of shunning. So it's a huge problem. It's a global problem. And yet we don't have that terminology in the public perception, and we don't have the laws, and we can't do anything about it if there aren't laws in place first, right?
Correct. Correct.
So,
And there is also another important aspect in considering why this project, this research is needed, because again we strongly believe that the findings of these studies will be the starting point to engage law enforcement, legislators, educational stakeholders and policymakers to create interventions that support victims of mandated shunning.
excellent. So can you tell us how people listening can participate? How can they support this research?
So there are several ways. First of all, by being interviewed, so sharing your experience of being shunned. It's a one-to-one online confidential interview, and identity and confidentiality will be maintained throughout all the project. Because we understand that this is also a deeply personal and at times difficult topic, and we ensure that the great care is taken in approaching this, part of the study, but all the study actually in a respectful and sensitive way. So if you are a former member and you have experienced mandated shunning, please contact me or Sabine, and we will be honored to hear your experience. But there is also the survey. So please, again, if you don't feel to share, your experience through an interview, you can take also the survey, and this will help us to document the psychological impact of being shunned from a high control faith-based group.
Thank you for emphasizing everything is entirely anonymous. And I know when I took my interview, it was explained not only would my name not be used, but anything that was identifying my age, places, would be changed in the final report so that people reading it won't be able to read someone's story and say, oh, I know that person because I'm familiar with this story. Because I know that's something a lot of people are very concerned about, because there's so many aspects and levels and degrees of this shunning and retribution, and groups that do this are prone to retaliate, and family members, friends, group leaders might actually cause even more damage if they're aware that someone was speaking out. So I appreciate you're very careful with anonymity. Just really good to highlight that. So you can go to the Stop Mandated Shunning channel or website, and you can get more information, and you can participate in any of these ways in either part of the research, either the survey or the interview or both. You can also tell your story and have it on the Stop Mandated Shunning website if you're interested. And this is a very in-depth project that takes a lot of money to fund, to complete. So if you're able to help us crowdfund this effort, that would be wonderful as well, which also, then if you're not comfortable doing the participation in any other way, anyone can donate, even if it's just a few dollars, to help us get this goal of having this research completed. So thank you so much, Wendy Grendele. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just, one final comment. So, it's not about being against any group or beliefs. It's the practice that is harmful. And that is why it's important to understand its impact and to raise awareness. And that is why we keep saying that your voice matters.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to more results later.
Definitely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take
Wendy.
care.
Bye.
Bye.